This month on 219 West, as violence breaks out in the Ivory Coast, we meet a man who's connecting New Yorkers with families back home. And eating organic isn't just for humans anymore. Now even Fido gets a special diet.
It's better with a little hot sauce, to be honest, but...
Plus, some special pooches are getting pampered while Riverside Park is going to the dogs. Hello and welcome to this month's edition of 219 West, the monthly news magazine produced by the students of the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism for CUNY-TV. I'm Anais Morales.
And I'm Alciana Gonzalez. We'll have all these stories and more coming up. Also, we'll hear from a group of Arab Americans who want to redefine the way they're counted. But first, it's been 6 months since the Ivory Coast held their controversial presidential election. As the president-elect takes office, there's been a flare-up of violence. More than 1,300 civilians have been killed, and over 1 million people have been displaced. Here in New York, as Ivorians watch their country erupt in turmoil, a Harlem Imam is helping them keep in touch with their loved ones back home. 219 West reporter Alva French caught up with him.
One of the congregation from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, Mameri Sisi, lost one of his parents. They went to the cemetery to bury him. And these people came behind and killed everybody in the cemetery. Not only that, they burned out their body too. They put them in the car and set the car on the fire.
That's one of many tragic stories Imam Suleiman Konate has been hearing since last winter. Violence broke out following the recent presidential election in Ivory Coast. Through his own relief effort, he has mobilized his congregation and community to send money and supplies to help Ivorians who are suffering during the conflict. Konate's mission is the latest step in a life's journey.
I did not come to America just to be an imam. My father, my grandfather, my great-uncle, all of them, they were scholars. And they're the one who taught me the Quran and Islamic culture. Because all my study was the Arabic language. I didn't go to school for any other languages. And the street been good to me. My English is from the street. My French is from the street.
With a formal education in communications and street smarts, Konate left home for Egypt and made his way to Saudi Arabia. Before long, he became a community organizer for African Muslims.
Most of the mosques at that time, the service was in English or Arabic language. And our people, they're from West French-speaking countries. So we mobilize people so that we can establish our own mosque. Alhamdulillah.
Since 1996, this mosque has been key to unifying the growing Muslim West African community in New York City. According to the American Community Survey, the West African population in the 5 boroughs has grown from 78,500 in 2000 to 125,000 in 2009.
We have Senegalese, Ivorians, Guineans, people from Guinea, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Liberia, Nigeria, everybody. Everybody is here today. Congregation now is almost 1,500 people who coming here for Juma service every Friday.
The turmoil in Ivory Coast is on the minds of many. Konate has been keeping close tabs on events back home. He says people are still unsafe and he is unsure when peace will come. For now, he looks forward to supporting others through tough times.
People will come to me with their problems, but when they leave my office with a big smile, that's my diploma right there. That's my degree.
For 219 West, this is Alva French.
While Ivorians in New York are struggling with conditions back home, another group of immigrants is struggling with how the U.S. government identifies them. In the census, more people are checking the box other because the existing categories don't seem to fit. One group of Arab Americans in Brooklyn is part of a national campaign to change the way they're counted. 219 West reporter Amy Stratton has their story.
Listen, when the census form comes to your house, you need to check it right. You ain't white.
The 2010 census shows that 3/4 of the population is white, but a closer look reveals that the white race includes a lot more color than you think. Last year, the Arab community launched a grassroots write-in campaign for a race classification on the census form. Omar Masri helped organize this national campaign for recognition.
We are definitely treated different in society by virtue of our identity, but then we won't even get the credit for it when it would seem to matter or seem to help us, because we're all of a sudden lumped into being white when we're not treated necessarily as being white.
In New York, a coalition of Arab American groups created a marketing campaign to rally their community.
People were saying, well, there's no box for me to check my name off, so does it really matter if we fill it out or not? So we came up with a campaign nationally called Check It Right, You Ain't White.
Beveridge, Brooklyn is the heart of Brooklyn's Arab American community. Many Arab countries are represented, such as Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, Yemen, Tunisia, and Palestine. The Arab community here has grown significantly over the past several years. Many, however, don't feel their presence is reflected on government forms.
We just put under as other because there's nothing else. Either that or Asian sometimes.
I just checked the Caucasian. To me, it was the closest one because it was neither white, neither black, or neither... If it was up to me, it would have been brown. I would take it.
We pay our taxes, and we would like to be heard, and also to be recognized like anybody else, like Spanish or Haitian or African American or Chinese, anybody else.
According to the American Community Survey, which is part of the census effort, the Arab population has grown almost 38% nationwide in less than 10 years. To community activists, this validates their request to have a checkbox for Arab on the question of race, a request that has not fallen on deaf ears.
We actually targeted the Arab American community with specific advertising in language and on television and radio and print advertising to encourage them to participate. So we care very deeply about this.
The government uses census data to divide political and financial resources to target specific communities. So what does this mean for Arabs in America?
So we hope that with some of the analysis that comes out of the Census Bureau, that this community does get their fair share of the government programs that are given to other low-income communities.
Over the next several years, Arab leaders will continue their efforts for recognition within their own community and on a national level. For 219 West, I'm Amy Stratton.
Joining us now is Andrew Beveridge, professor of sociology at Queens College and the CUNY Graduate Center. Professor Beveridge, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
Great. So we just saw the piece about Arab Americans in Brooklyn who are dissatisfied with the way that they're categorized in the census. Is race still an effective way to categorize people?
Well, I think it's becoming more and more difficult, and I think particularly the Asian category is particularly difficult because historically in the U.S. there really were four races. There was white, black, yellow, and red. The yellow race, as it used to be called, was really just Chinese and Japanese. And then sometime during the 70s, and I think starting in the 80s, they came up with this Asian race category, which includes basically East Asian, Southeast Asian, and South Asian. But it doesn't include Central Asian, like Afghanistan, nor does it include West Asia, like which would probably include the Arabs. So I think that this is actually a very difficult problem, and in fact, the race category has really become an origin category in some ways, because Arab is really not a race, but they're Arabs, and the census has captured that data in the ancestry question, which is no longer on the short census that we now see, but is on something else called the American Community Survey. But I think they should combine those two, like origin and race, into one question. This has been pushed by a number of demographers, but it hasn't gotten anywhere.
Okay, and what do you think? Do you think it will go somewhere someday?
Sooner or later, I think it would. I mean, also the complication of having more than one race or more than one origin, was finally acknowledged in the 2000 census. And if you go way back, the last time that there was any kind of multi-race questioning or multi-race recording was in the very, very early 20th century. And in fact, the 1890 census had this thing where they actually counted quadroons, octoroons, and mulattoes, and they told the census enumerator to figure out what proportion of blood each person was. So race really is a biological construct, was started as a biological construct and has sort of morphed over as a social construct, but I don't think it's really caught up.
Right, that's very interesting. The mayor was quoted as saying that he was, the census data just did not make any sense to him, the numbers, especially from Queens. Did it make sense to you? Was the census data accurate?
Well, I know that Mayor Bloomberg is very unhappy about the census numbers because he seems to want to have New York grow a lot. And so this may have undercut his pride that New York was really almost 250,000 smaller than he thought it should be. However, the fact is, I wrote a column for the Gotham Gazette saying that the census could very likely be right. And this is apparently a radical position in New York to suggest that maybe they did count us right this time. So it's possible. I know Queens apparently didn't grow very much, but it is also possible that the 2000 census overcounted us because there were a couple of procedures that were done, the B counting centers and the way in which addresses were used that could have actually led to extra people being counted. And we also know that the 1990 census was very, very poor count. In fact, there was an adjustment that was blocked by the political class. Actually, the person who went on to become George Bush's campaign manager and was head of commerce, he blocked the adjustment. So New York would have been about 7.5 million instead of 7.3 if they let that adjustment go through. And I don't think it was complete. And so the growth in New York was actually lower in the 90s than people think. So sometimes they project this growth ahead. So that's another possibility. And then I think the other two things are that the immigration we know has declined. And part of this is related to the financial crisis, but it actually had started declining before that. And then the second thing is the housing boom. That we had this housing boom and then a bust. So the fact that there are a lot of more vacant apartments now than there were in 2000 is actually not that surprising because they built all these apartments.
Now, one interesting thing is that, here at the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism, we've been reporting on the census data, and we've talked to many people in these immigrant communities who have said that, the language barrier, and then they don't really have a clear understanding of what the census is. What do you think might be some other ways to improve the outreach?
Well, the interesting thing about the outreach efforts was that everybody patted themselves on the back when the census finished in New York because they, in fact, increased the response rate in New York by a couple of percent, which is, it's just massive. And so then when the numbers finally come out, everybody says, oh, no, we need more outreach, this and that. But actually, this census had more outreach, I think, than any census in history. And the fact is that the problems that you're talking about, language problems, all of those sorts of things were also true in 2000. So the real question is what has changed between 2000 and 2010, and I think one of the things that's changed is they're better at eliminating duplicates, and so that could also account for some of it.
So what is New York City now? What are we? What have the changes, said about the city now 10 years later?
Well, I think New York City and particularly Manhattan have really changed because Manhattan now is becoming whiter. Many more babies are being born there. More married couple families are growing in Manhattan. So Manhattan is really very different than the other boroughs. The other boroughs have continued to become more and more diverse. Manhattan is actually becoming less diverse. So I think that's one of the more interesting takeaways from the census. And then the continued growth of the Asian population, decline in the black population, and a really significant slowing in the growth of the Hispanic population. I think all those things are very, very important.
Wow.
So we may have more of a multipolar city where we have blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and whites kind of all sharing New York City, except for Manhattan. Only the rich share Manhattan.
Okay. Well, you've definitely shed some light on this very interesting topic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Alcione, we'll send it back over to you.
Coming up, doggy diet and doggy rehab. We'll show you ways to take care of your canine companions.
This financial advisor is being accused of committing one of the largest investment frauds in the history of the United States.
I guess we're not going to Aspen. That's fine. You see, I like tennis balls. He likes insider trading. So he's going to jail and I'm going to a shelter. And no, they're not the same thing. Shelters are for good pets that want to be adopted. Jails are for criminals. I've done nothing. Uh-oh. Okay, I stole a cheeseburger once. How my dog?
Yes, ready. Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back. Our four-legged friends often face the same health issues that we do. Some New Yorkers are opting for unconventional forms of therapy for their ailing canine companions. Meet Gretel Von Petal. She's a 6-year-old dachshund, but she's not your average four-legged friend.
We got her about a year and a half ago. She actually could walk then, but she had a few little problems and developed they had episodes of the IVDD, invertebral disc disease.
Gretel's hind legs are paralyzed. She's a regular here at Water for Dogs, a hydrotherapy rehabilitation facility for canines in Lower Manhattan. She is one of about a dozen disabled pets who come here for treatment.
Canine rehabilitation consists of many modalities or exercises, physical means of providing rehabilitation for dogs that have injuries or diseases. And hydrotherapy specifically can be swimming, assisted swimming, and also walking in the underwater treadmill.
According to the Canine Hydrotherapy Association based in the UK, this unconventional method of healing can improve the quality of an animal's recovery and speed up the process if done in addition to veterinary care.
New York City dogs especially, they're walking on concrete all day long. This way they're able to walk normally but in a buoyant environment, so it takes 80% of their weight off of the limbs.
Some dogs, like Tommy, are more likely to develop certain diseases and injuries because of their breed. German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, and Labradors, for example, are susceptible to hip dysplasia, a genetic disorder in which the joints are an abnormal fit, which can cause anything from lameness in the rear limbs to paralysis in the most severe cases. Water therapy isn't the only way that pet owners are seeking relief for their canine companions. Dr. Jeffrey Levy is a veterinarian here in New York who specializes in treating animals with acupuncture.
Often I get calls in terms of digestive disease, inflammatory bowel disease, pancreatitis. It seems to be helpful with cats with inflammatory bowel disease, often behavioral issues, aggressivity.
Georgia is 15 years old, and last year she began to have problems walking. She's been seeing Dr. Levy for 8 months now, and her owner says that the results are incredible.
Everybody who knows my dog has commented how her personality seems brighter, she seems happier. She had started to just become kind of like an old dog, and she's still an old dog, but she's more interested in things that she was interested in when she wasn't as old.
Every animal is different, and while results are not guaranteed, the trend has been on the rise for the past couple of years.
I would say the past 15 years there's been a renaissance in the practice of acupuncture as applied to animals. I mean, for human beings, it's been around a little bit longer. But I think through word of mouth and as people become more sophisticated and search for other ways to lend aid to the ailing pets, acupuncture is certainly an important and ever-growing modality.
Mayer says that Gretel's weekly walks in the underwater treadmill have improved her mobility.
It's really helped with her foot placement. We noticed a couple months ago that her feet are moving.
While these treatments may look promising, they will also promise you a hefty price tag. 20 one-hour sessions of hydrotherapy will run about $2,500. Acupuncture is slightly cheaper, costing about $175 for the initial consultation and treatment and $135 for follow-up visits. Pet owners like Fromberg and Mayer say they would never consider an alternative to providing their loved one with the best treatment available.
You just brightened up, and that's why we keep doing it, because I see the difference, and she just seems happier.
The idea of putting her down when she was paralyzed just never occurred to me. It absolutely did not occur to me until my mother said, well, did you put her down? And I said, no, why would I do that?
And it seems like Gretel couldn't agree more. For 219 West, I'm Anais Morales.
Anais, you have a dog, right?
Yes, I have a dachshund.
Have you ever tried tasting your dachshund's dog food?
Never. Although it does have rice, carrots, and beef, which are all the same things that I eat.
Well, here's something that might just change your mind. It used to be that if you said someone's cooking tastes like dog food, it was considered an insult. Now it may just be a compliment. A new line of organic dog food is proving to be fit for both man and beast. 219 West reporter Judy Lee serves up the story.
On the menu tonight is chicken or salmon mixed with vegetables and oats.
I know at the butcher around where I live, you can get chicken thighs for like 99 cents a pound.
Atina Tan is talking about dinner time for our dog, Mika. 4 years ago, Mika developed kidney stones. Tan switched from processed food to a prescription diet and eventually started to cook for Mika and went one step further.
I'm not a crazy dog person, like single crazy old lady over there with the 5 dogs that's pushing around in a stroller. Not like that. But, if I won't put it in my mouth, I'm not going to put it in her mouth.
Changing the diet of a sick pet is an alternative to surgery or chemical treatments.
You're very cute.
Veterinarian Dr. Jill Elliott noticed an increase in health-conscious pet owners like Tan who choose to pay more for higher-end dog food.
A lot of animals that are eating the lower grade foods have a lot of food allergies. Often it's what's in the food that's extra that's causing them the problem.
Like fast food chains, controversy over low-grade fillers is now a concern shared by pet owners. Lack of quality control has led to national recalls, illnesses, and deaths. In 2007, the FDA recalled over 100 pet food brands contaminated by melamine, a chemical used to make plastic. The tainted products killed more than 300 dogs and cats in 2 months, according to a study by Michigan State University. After the scare, organic pet food sales exploded. Hannah Mandelbaum and Allison Weiner teamed up to introduce a new line of human-grade, home-cooked dog food called Evermore.
We talked with chemists, we talked with nutritional vets, we did everything we could to ensure that not only are we providing a delicious formula, but we're providing a nutritious and well-researched formula as well.
Evermore uses high-quality produce, chicken and beef that comes from sustainable suppliers. They put their product to the test by eating it for a month.
It's better with a little hot sauce, to be honest, but Allison really enjoys the taste. Me, not so much, but what we were trying to do was stand behind the quality and integrity of our product.
It's an expensive taste. A 1.5-pound container of Evermore pet food costs $15. That's 1 day's worth of food for a 50-pound dog. The 10-pound dog will feast on it for up to 5 days.
Our customers are health-conscious dog owners who care about what they put into their own bodies and what they put into their dogs' bodies. They're people who might have had experiences with dogs that have illnesses and have tried a lot of veterinary routes and just haven't figured out how to deal with their dog's health problems and realized at some point that, hey, maybe it's diet.
From the wide selection of organic dog foods on the market, Tan chose Dr. Harvey's, which is made up of organic grains and herbs. A 10-pound container costs $75. Mika eats this with cooked protein, and the kidney stones have not returned.
Whatever we were feeding her before, it was a very rich food, and it just caused her pH to go kind of wonky, and because it did form crystals, we wanted to do, we didn't want surgery, so we thought we'd change her diet. She didn't have problems afterward.
For pet owners with healthy dogs, providing a natural diet is less of a concern.
We tried all sorts of foods, and we tried all the high-end foods, expensive dog foods. They were like $3.50 a can, and he didn't like those. So then we got him really cheap dog food, like 89 cents a can, and he loved it.
I had a dog for 14 years who ate the worst food You know, he lived great. He had a great life. He didn't get sick till he was very old. The food isn't the miracle drug. It's just that if there's a problem, then you might want to try changing the food. But I don't think people should be crazy about, I have to feed this food or else my dog is going to deteriorate.
Paying 89 cents a can or $29.99 for a bag of dog food is up to the owner, but it's all about a well-balanced meal. Those who can afford it feel that for their pets, it's worth it. For 219 West, I'm Judy Lee in Manhattan.
So my uncle calls and he says he's dizzy and he's losing his balance. I'm like, Unc, you want me to take you to a doctor? He's like, no, I'm gonna look up the symptoms. I said, your symptoms are you're dizzy and you're losing your balance. So he said, I can't get on the internet because my arm is numb. I said, well, use your good arm and dial 911.
Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love is showing symptoms of stroke, don't wait because it might be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain lost.
Folks, why won't we go to the doctor? My uncle called, speaking slurred, complaining his arm's numb. He called everyone. He even called my daughter Tiara because, you know, she's got a year of nursing. Everyone thinks he needs to go to the doctor, including me. So he said, well, will you take me? I'm like, I'm on the road. He goes, I'll wait. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love have symptoms of stroke, don't wait. It may be too late. Dial 911. Time lost is brain loss.
It begins as molten metal, and in the hands of a sculptor, it becomes a work of art. 219 West, Jennifer Hamblett, follows the journey of one piece that will soon be joining the grand monuments in Manhattan's Riverside Park.
This is the moment sculptor Alston Chapman has been waiting 9 months for. Seeing her vision for a 6.5-foot bronze sculpture come to life.
Well, it's a 9-month program, and I've called it my pregnancy, my not necessarily trouble-free pregnancy.
This is no ordinary birth. Chapman is creating a larger-than-life monument of a young girl and a dog. It is one of 7 pieces that will soon call Riverside Park home.
Well, there were a lot of children, but the first thing I noticed were these pilings in the water, old sort of ruins. Then I just sort of worked with a child, pilings. Then the dog that was going to be relieved became a real dog.
Chapman is one of the artists from the Art Students League, chosen to participate in the Model to Monument program. It is part of a 5-year partnership between the League and the Parks Department, formed to create public art for city parks. Bronze casting is a tradition that is hundreds of years old, yet as we have seen here today at the Modern Art Foundry in Astoria, Queens, it is an almost daily practice. And according to one of the owners, it is not a dying art form.
We've seen representational work coming back now, too. We hope it comes back to more representational because, I mean, we do like the work.
The bronze is heated to 2,000 degrees, lifted out in a crucible, and slowly poured into a mold. The sculpture is then left to cool before it receives its finishing touches. This is Chapman's first piece to be presented in a public space. For her, it is an opportunity to bring happiness to those who see it.
I think I wanted people to just be happy. I didn't particularly feel like challenging anyone.
The pieces will be unveiled in June along the Hudson River from 59th to 72nd Streets and will remain on view for 1 year. This is Jennifer Hamblett for 219 West.
That's it for this month's edition of 219 West from the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism. Thank you for watching. I'm Alcione Gonzalez.
And I'm Anais Morales. We'll be back next month with more stories from the 5 boroughs. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our podcast on iTunes. From all of us here at 219 West, thanks for watching.